Okay, so let this cure overnight, and now I'm going to go ahead and take all the clamps off of this, and then we will be ready to probably sand this. And I have a few things we're gonna look at putting in the engine mount, and then I'm gonna save. This is the hatch that's gonna go to be able to access the fuel tank. And the way they have this planned is that it's going to go on, and then it's going to have like a rubber band attachment. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do this to where I can I'll probably hinge it, and then maybe use, I don't know, magnets or something to see if I can just kind of make a hatch that I don't have to take off, but it can, it'll be connected. I don't want to use a rubber band, so we'll see how that goes. So okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to take all these clamps off, and we will see what it looks like. Okay, so here's the glued up fuselage, and so it's going to take some sanding. I'm going to have to go through and sand this, get rid of some of these. There's sort of, it's not a perfect fit, but overall it's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and smooth off the firewall, do the bottom. I'm going to do this off camera. I'm going to use probably a roto tool to get rid of some of these edges, and then even like a palm hand sander to gently kind of hit it. Should be the easiest way to do that, but I'm going to do that right now, and then we'll come back and we'll fit in the engine mounts. And like I said, I'm going to hold off on this hatch. And then the other thing is I'm going to hold off on back here is where I'm supposed to put the tail skid, which are these pieces right here. So the kit calls for to put these skids in here, and I don't want to do that. Like I said, I'm going to put a wheel. I'm going to put a tail wheel. So I'll probably fill this in with something, or put like a piece of wood over this to help secure the tail wheel. So I'm just going to get one of those, probably the right size tail wheel assembly for this. So all right, so right now I'm just going to go ahead and sand this down and get it sort of close. So I'm not going to do it completely, but I will get it going. Okay, so I've gone through and I've done the initial sanding to get rid of some of these. Some of these pieces of wood kind of overlapped a little bit, so they had to be trimmed and then sanded. I did most of the sanding with a couple of these nice soft kind of sanding blocks, using just probably, I don't know what this is. This is probably like a 200. It's probably actually more like a 300 or 400 sandpaper. But in any case, so I went and I smoothed all the edges out, and I'll go back over it one more time, kind of in a final run. I'll go over all the wing and everything, and the stabilizer and the elevator, and the rudder. And so I'm going to build everything. I'll give it a rough kind of sanding, and then I'll go back one final time. So now I'm going to go ahead and kind of put the engine mounts in, and like I said, they're going to slide into these two holes. So I'm going to go ahead and test fit those, and I think I'm going to have to probably do some trimming to make them fit. Yeah, see, these are just, so I'm going to have to go through. Yeah, that goes in. Okay. It's getting kind of tight, so. All right. So I'm going to go through, and what I'll do is I'm going to kind of sand this and do a little work on those two entry points, and then back here on the inside there's two back in here, so make sure everything fits okay. So we'll do that right now, and then we'll go ahead and glue them in with some epoxy. Okay, so when I was trying to fit this in here, it's almost there. But what I realized was that when I put the when I epoxied the firewall onto the side here, I had a little bit of epoxy, kind of build up right at those two joints. So what I am doing is I'm just filing this down to sort of make that square again. So they kind of oozed into that little area, and that was blocking this thing from being able to slide it in nicely. And then back in here, I think I'm going to have to just do a little bit of sanding on the end of this to get it to slide into this little slot back inside here. So I'm going to do that right now. And don't have the best Right, so let me work on this a minute, and then I'll come back. But I'm going to take this off camera so I can get this to fit. Okay, so like I said, I kind of sanded this, make it a little bit, put it back to square because I had that epoxy in there. And then the end of this, I just kind of rounded this a little bit on the end so that when the time it gets back into here, it'll fit into that little slot in there. So let's see here. Let's put it back in here. I want to be gentle with it, but pressed it in. There you go. So now it seems to fit nicely in there. So now I'll do the other side. I'm sure this one's not going to fit without me trying to do the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's kind of rough. And I don't know if you can kind of see, in here, but there is some epoxy buildup inside here that just squeezed over. So I'm going to go ahead and square that up, and then we'll get it to fit like the other side. All right, I think I got this one to work. And I'm just going to go through here. And it definitely is tight fitting. Yeah. I don't want to snatch these things, so I want to be careful. There it goes. Boom. All right, so there we go. So those are in, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take them out and epoxy them. Now, like I was saying, if you can see in here, if it show it or not, it may be kind of hard to visualize it, but you can see that the alignment, I'm going to exaggerate it, is kind of going over to the right, and then it's also pointing, maybe pointing a little bit down. So, like I said before, those are just to sort of counteract the torque of the engine. As the engine is turning the propeller clockwise, if you're looking that way, then the engine torque is going to want to turn the fuselage counterclockwise. So by adjusting the engine so that it's sort of like tweaked a little bit to the right, it helps counteract that torque a little bit to keep the plane, helps it fly a little bit straighter. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll get some epoxy set, and we'll get these things glued in. All right, so here goes our epoxy. Spin the epoxy airplane. That's okay though. Now, I'm not going to mind if I do a little bit extra on this because this is the engine mount. So I want to make sure I get a good amount of that in there. The nice thing about this also is that I don't have to clamp it because it's going to be held in place by the bulkhead or by the firewall on both sides. So there's that. Get this out of the way. Let's go ahead and mix this up. One thing I noticed with these little cups that you get at the, for when you go out and buy food and things, and they give you the condiments and stuff, that these clear ones, they tend to be more resistant to things like lacquer and more harsh chemicals or harsher chemicals, whereas these opaque ones, this will get eaten up by like a lacquer or something like that. So I don't use these. If I'm doing like airbrushing or something like that, and I'm using the thinners or lacquers, I use this. Or if I'm using cleaners to do things with parts or something like that. I don't know if that's universal, but it's the ones that I have do that. All right, so there's that. So this is going to be kind of messy. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in here. Start with inside the fuselage. I'm going to put a little bit on the high end, so if I put it down, it will sort of drain onto it or drip onto it, I guess. This is not going to look pretty in here, but that's not the point. Being on the inside, you're not going to see it, but then sort of work some back in here. Let's slide L in, which is our left side. That's why you want to mark them, because if you're doing this and you're trying to be quick, you don't want to be guessing or pick up the wrong one. There There it goes. Good. And now I'm going to flip it. And do this side. I have time to work with this, but I'm used to working with 5-minute epoxy, which makes you panic when you're using it because you got to get it in there before it sets up. I guess it's a good idea to be try to work fast when you're dealing with epoxies anyhow. Okay, let's put this guy in this side. Here's my right side. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so those are in there nicely. And since I have some extra epoxy left over, I'm just going to go ahead and drip it. This will be one of the most important sort of structural elements in your fuselage is the engine mount, to make sure that it's nice and secure. Okay. And I don't think I need to do any kind of clamping. So I'm just going to kind of get some of this stuff off here. Okay. So we'll obviously let this cure. And I don't think we have any. Good. Okay. Let's see if I can get some more on here just because I got it. I like this simple design, you know, it already comes with the engine mount. You know, for a plane like this is just one of those sort of like, you know, like a box type construction. So they're not fancy, but they fly well, and just the simplicity of them makes them fun to have. If you're building a scale plane, obviously you're going to take a little bit different approach. Okay, so there it is. So the fuselage is pretty much finished. So we're going to let this set, the engine mounts. Servo trays in. I'm going to come back and do the tail wheel later, and then I'm going to come back and do this. Kind of a ding in there. Then I'm going to come back and do this hatch. It's going to sit up on here like this. All right, so I'm going to set this aside, let this cure, and then our next move is going to be to do the stabilizer and the rudder. The elevator and the rudder. We'll do those two pieces, and then we will do the wing last, and that'll be the major construction part of it. And then we'll move on from there with the hardware and covering it and doing all that other stuff. So, okay, well that's it for now. So next time we will start on the elevator and the rudder.